Hello and welcome to this video where today we're going to be doing a Sims 4 build challenge. So today the idea is to see if we can build a tiny home big enough to fit 8 Sims. When I say tiny home, I mean the tiny home is this tiny home residential lot type, and I want to fit into this tier 1 micro home where we have only 32 tiles to play with. 32 tiles is really not very much if I can demonstrate it to you. So this cube I've just built adds up to 32 tiles, so this is what we need to try and fit in 8 Sims into. So let's go ahead and see if we can try and figure this out. Now I have kind of drawn this shape on purpose because I do think making this house 3 units wide is going to be the most sensible thing. That way we can have objects down one side and objects down the other side and they don't get in the way of each other, and I think that's a pretty efficient use of space. Now probably the easiest thing for me to do would be to chuck down a bunch of bunk beds like this, and I definitely am going to be using bunk beds, but I don't want to just have 4 sets of bunk beds in this house. However, I do think we could have one kids room that has 4 of these different beds in them, kind of like this. So let's separate that off into a room. We're then going to need another room for the tiniest kitchen you have ever seen. So if we're really going back to basics, all we really need is a fridge, an oven, and maybe 2 countertops, because we're going to need to put a sink into one of them. I'm going to also go ahead and chuck some lights into this build so we can see what's going on at all times, and the obviously choices, the pattern choices I'm making at the moment are not final. We will be trying to make this look good by the end. So I think round here is probably also where we're going to be having our front door. And I think we can actually save a couple of tiles here, probably by doing this, making that room inside a little bit smaller. And then I can turn this into a 4x4, which will become the bathroom. And this room is what I want to be the living room / parents room. So we're going to have a Murphy bed in here. So I'm going to actually move it one wider and then make this all a little bit shorter. And then obviously make that bathroom smaller as well. And it's a pretty funky looking house in terms of its shape right now. I think we're going to need another bunk bed over here, but we're going to be able to fit that in nicely. And I actually kind of want to scooch this room just 1 tile this way. And then this little nook in here is where we're going to be placing our Murphy bed, which is going to double as the parents' bed. So that can fit in just like that. And I would love to try and fit one of these small TV sets over on this wall, although it doesn't look like it quite wants to fit. That might work with move objects. I have got a couple of Sims in here, so we are going to be able to play test these things. So let's just turn on move objects to see what we can get to happen with that. Perhaps that could work. I don't know if that one would look better, but that probably really would get in the way of the bed, I think. So let's stick with this one. And this family clearly have a lot of kids, so I might turn a couple of these kids' beds into toddler beds down here. That does mean we will need to fit a bath into this bathroom, so I think we should be going for a shower tub combo in this case. And I think if I place it like this, with the toilet just over here, we can go with this tiny home toilet. That should all be playable. Except I do also need a toddler potty, so let's see if we can fit both of those in next to each other somehow. This is where we're going to need to bring in our Sims to see if this is going to work, although I will need to add some doors first. And let's see if we can get our Sims in here. I'm not sure why it's 1:30 AM, but we do need to see if they can use that toilet. And yeah, he seems to be able to use that just fine. Can we potty train the toddler? And we can potty train the toddler, that's so exciting. Okay, so this bathroom is totally functional. That is very good news for us. Wonderful, so now we've got our kind of furniture placed. Let's see where it might make sense to have some windows in this house. So I think I want it to look fairly modern, but perhaps with these kind of wooden tones. Quite like this Get Famous window that I haven't really seen before. And I think that could fit fairly well in the bathroom just there. Oh, I very much like this Snowy Escape one. Is that too big for this room? Might be slightly too big. Is this one a bit smaller? Yes, let's see if we've got a good swatch of this one available to us. Oh, this one doesn't come in any sort of brown colour. That's a shame. It does come in a black, so I think we might be able to make that work. And then maybe we should go back to using this Get Famous one. Does that look exceptionally weird? Looks quite weird, but I don't hate it, to be honest. Yep, let's have a few more of those around. I'm really struggling with what windows are going to fit in with these bunk beds. I think, to be honest, these kind of minimal windows might have to do it because they're the only ones that sort of fit above the bunk bed there and don't look too weird in the kitchen. And then I don't really want to turn the roof into flooring because that will take us over our tiny home tiles amount, but I would potentially like to get a ladder in here so that we can climb up to the roof. Something like that, I think, doesn't look too weird. We can get some half walls around the outside of it as well. There we go, that's perhaps looking a little bit more normal. I'm wondering about changing this bathroom window to just simply match the others. Okay, let's try and find a door that doesn't look so weird in this tiny little gap. Or just your classic tiny house door. Now, I believe I'm not going to be able to paint... Oh no, I can paint these floor tiles up here. Wow, mad. And I think let's go ahead and try and make some of these bedrooms look actually nice. It would be good to try and fit a desk in somewhere as well if we can. So if we paint the walls, I think that could help guide our design choices a little bit. I'm quite enjoying these sort of stucco colours, the colourful vibe. I wonder if we could even go for that on the outside a little bit. Yeah, I think I quite like this with just this little blue accent. And then it probably does need to be quite light and airy inside. Perhaps we could go for mostly white with a few accent walls. Quite like how that looks with the sort of green down the middle there. And then these guys can have a red one. Perhaps on both sides? Yeah, I think I quite like that. So let's have a go at making this bedroom a little more enjoyable to be in. Quite like this colourful one, to be honest, actually, for a kid's bedroom. Or maybe this one as well. And then we can have some toddlers' beds down below. There we go, I think they fit in quite well. Perhaps we could have like a nice carpet on the floor or something to make it look a little bit brighter. There we go, that's quite nice. Now, I'm not sure if I put a desk in here if those toddlers will be able to access their beds, but let's have a little go. Now let's see if this dad can still put his toddler to bed. Unfortunately, they appear to be blocked. What happens if I really squish this into the wall? Well, that might actually just start to look pretty weird with a computer on it. Let's have a look. Oh no, that still kind of fits in fairly normally. Especially the laptop fits in very normally. Let's see if we can use these beds now. Oh my gosh, it kind of looks like we might be able to. Wow, yeah, that bed is sort of usable. Okay, how about this bed as well? Okay, so we can't actually put her to bed, but he can sort of sit and chat with her. He can read her, so that seems like enough. Wonderful. So how else can we decorate this room? Maybe get a little cork board above it. I think that could look pretty cute. I'm quite enjoying how this hobby board looks. A bit like they've each got their own sort of section of it, and maybe let's get some fairy lights up in this room as well, although are they slightly too big? Here we go, this is what we want. Beautiful. Love that. And I guess let's maybe get some decorations in here too for these little toddlers on their bedroom wall. I think that looks quite cute all together. Let's do some more on this side. We'll go. I quite like how those pictures look there for that toddler. And I feel like we could do with some more fairy lights over this other side as well. There we go, and that is a pretty cute kids' room. Let's move on to making this kitchen look a little bit more acceptable. Might get rid of just one window, so we can maybe have a bit of upper cabinetry in here. I do quite enjoy the look of all these plates. Or perhaps this cabinet is nicer, yeah. Now those shelves look quite good, but we might need to get a different fridge or move them up slightly. Okay, I think that's looking slightly better. I might just want a little bit more decor around here. So I wanted to use some of these items that were behind the unlock wall because I've got a couple of Sims in this household. So to do that, I turned testing cheats on and then I used the ignore gameplay unlocks entitlement cheat. So now I can go ahead and place these knives. So let's go ahead and attack this side too. And we could have a little bit of open shelving over here potentially. I mean, this shelf is already pretty well put together for us, so maybe we could go for that. I think that fits in fairly well over there. Let's maybe have a few little art pieces on the wall at the side here as well. I think those look quite good over there. And I feel like having a little hand towel next to the sink would also make sense, along with a tiny bit of soap as well. And I think that is our kitchen done. I would quite like to have a full-length mirror here, perhaps in the hallway. I say hallway, it's literally one tile. So you could check yourself before you go out. Maybe a couple of little shoes as well. I think that looks quite cute. And let's see what we can do to make this room look a bit better. I would quite like to maybe try and hide these bunk beds as though they were sort of behind a curtain or something. I think that if I build a wall along here, put a curtain on the other side, and then go ahead and delete this. And unfortunately it does clash with the bed a lot. I think I'm going to need to delete this wall, or at least place it further away while I move this curtain. Yep, that one's looking pretty good. So now we've got a curtain, so it's kind of giving the teenagers that could sleep in here a little bit more privacy. So let's go ahead and give them a nicer bunk bed. I think we could maybe go ahead and use some lighter wood tones in this part of the house. Quite enjoy these paler tones that we can use here. And let's see if we can personalize this space a little bit for the teenager that's going to live in here. And I love these little My Sims stickers as well. I used to love My Sims. There we go, I think that's quite nice. And maybe we could do a little something up the top here as well for this sim. Perhaps just these little doodles will work quite nicely. And now we need to decide what swatch we want of this tiny home furniture in what is going to be our living room. We are using slightly lighter wood tones in here. I do like this red couch, and I think I'll go with that. That looks quite nice. And maybe let's get a rug down on the floor as well to make it look a little cozier. I do quite like this one that came with Sims 4 for rent. I think that looks pretty good like that. And I haven't actually had this sim come and playtest this Murphy bed. Can I come and put this bed down? Yep, looks like I can. And can I get into it and sleep? Yep, looks like I can also do that. Can I sleep over this side? Yes, I can also sleep over that side. That is very good. Well, I'm happy with that. There we go, and I've just created a little picture wall there for them, which I quite like the look of. And let's see if we can also fit some curtains on this window that don't look terrible. Do you like how these ones look? Let's check what swatches we've got. I think the orange looks pretty good, to be honest, so I might stick with that. There we go, that's looking good. And the bathroom, we have barely anything to do. We've already play tested it. Let's just get some decor and some floor tiles in. There we go, and all the indoors decoration is looking pretty much done with that, and I'm pretty happy with how it's come together. This side view is pretty fun. Now let's try and have a go at making it look normal from the outside. Now I thought it could be fun if this family had a bit of their own family farm on the lot, seeing as they can't spend all of their time inside because the house is so small. Let's see what we can do to add in some activities outside. I like the look of maybe having a couple of solar panels up here. Now I do not have a bin indoors, so I must make sure that I'm using a bin outdoors. Perhaps we'll have a bit of a dumpster around the back. Perhaps we could have a bit of a nice place to relax up here as well, a bit of a roof garden. I do like this roof bench. There we go, and let's get a few potted plants up here as well, just to finish off the vibe. I think that looks quite cool. There we go, now let's get to working on the outside. So I'm not going to raise this house up on a foundation because I've not got any extra tiles to use for a porch, so I think terrain paint is going to be our friend with this build. And we didn't fit a dining room inside, so I think I would definitely quite like to have a dining room area out here. So let's go ahead and try and maybe fit in a dining area for about the 8 Sims could sit at, so that they could all come and have a family dinner outside if they wanted to. We have got these benches, and I think we could just string 4 of them together. Not 4 of them together, 2 of them together. To try and make a longer dining table. And then we're going to want a barbecue out here as well. Perhaps we want to try and build a bit of a trellis out over this area. That could be fun. I do quite enjoy how that looks. It's doing something a little bit annoying to these half walls upstairs, but perhaps we can live with that. And we're going to need some columns in here to make this look nice and normal. And I definitely want it to look quite nice and green with some landscaping as well. There we go, I really like how that has come together for this outdoor seating area. And we can't have any more rooms, but we can have roofs, so we could make ourselves a bit of a garage as well. Now let's go and get some more terrain paint into this garage as well. And we can have it come and lead round from this path. And perhaps lead down to this little selling area that we seem to have as well. Okay, and I definitely really want this selling area to look pretty cool facing onto the street, so it would actually attract people to come and buy the products here. We can have a little sign advertising the produce. And I think that could look pretty good. I've just cluttered it up a little bit to draw a bit more attention to the selling area. And I think filling in this spot with some landscaping is going to really help it as well. There we go, I think that bit's looking pretty good. And I suppose the idea with this is that potentially a car could pull in and park in there. Obviously we're not actually going to use a car, but I wonder if I should draw in the terrain paint to try and make that make sense. And then I could use a few more plants to sort of separate the selling area from the rest. Perhaps just like that. And now I would like to start decorating up this little garage area. And I think we're going to have some skill building items in here. I think the flower arranging table could work quite well. Perhaps even the candle making table. Actually, instead of the candle making table, I might have this juice station, although that is a rather large item. Maybe I don't love how that looks. Could be quite fun to have some laundry out in the garage as well, I think. Maybe I can try and fit that in so that it looks natural. And I definitely want this woodworking table as well out here. And I think there's going to be some good fake storage items that I can decorate this area up with. A bit like this big shelf that could slot in there. There's this kind of Forager's Delight table, although there's not really anywhere left to put it, to be honest. I think a few little gardening bits could look quite nice just there. There we go, I think that garage is looking pretty good now as an activity area too. And perhaps it would make sense to have the dumpster just abutting the garage just like that. We've still got lots of room left to play with, and I had envisioned that we might have some chickens out the back here, so why don't I go ahead and put those in. There we go, this chicken hutch is coming along pretty nicely, and I think we need to decide what we want to do in this final corner, which I think is going to be a bit of a gardening area, probably with some greenhouses. And I think we're going to be needing a bit of terrain paint to help this to blend in. That one matches slightly better, so perhaps I'll go around and change these. And I think I'm going to maybe use a hedge as a bit of a barrier around this greenhouse. There we go, let's perhaps get some gardening tools just back in here, perhaps from our clutter objects. And these are the two objects I really like and would quite like to try and create a bit of an area for. There we go, and I think I'm pretty happy with how that final area is looking as well. Thanks so much for watching along as I did this challenge. I'm really happy with how the result turned out. I think this place looks really good and it should be totally functional for you to play with your own Sims if you wanted to download it. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.